happening.
I feel like
NIP
I feel like every day there's like a we just didn't lock in a champion thing.
it's
At this
low
point,
key. I wonder if the refs are going to start getting on NIP for this because they missed a ban in their not the Weibo series but the one before that. They missed a ban, so they had to like remake the draft. This keeps happening. I feel like this keeps happening for for Ninjas in Pajamas. I'll sit up, guys. It's okay. I'm not that big chilling yet.
At some point, am I wondering like is somebody's like client bugged or is one of the PCs messed up? But it seems to be mostly one of just NIP that I've noticed is happening before. So
yeah,
I don't
remember
know.
if you remember, Leave had the random tech issue of Doom for one of their games for the placements, and we had one of the worst games of all time with Shadows and Fury going like 16 for one of their games
I
for the placements. We had one of the worst games of all time.
I think a bunch of times.
Shadows and Fury going like 6 for one of their
series. I
games
forget exactly why. I think it was because I saw Pantheon last games of all time. I think a bunch of times.
It's happening again. Pantheon for going B.
Exactly why.
Yeah. So generally what we were seeing from their draft and kind of the expectations for NIP, they have some good skirmishing, and what I'm going to kind of be interested to see is what Doinby does on the Sylas, because into Talia you're going to have to still trade a lot of HP, but it's a bit better of a laning phase versus playing something like a Sylas or versus an Azir like we saw kind of getting hovered. So how NIP are able to kind of break open this shell of really strong kind of pseudo tanks in the Sinsao and then having a full one in the top lane. We still haven't seen an answer into the Scion quite yet from NIP, and they're kind of running out of options, right? Like they first picked the Vi Ezreal, they go into Sylas. So what does Shanji have prepared? Again, he's been someone who's cooked in the top lane, but there's not very many champions up and available.
I mean, you mentioned the Udyr at the top of the show. That can do okay. It can match. I don't know if it really fits the identity of like team composition that well, but it does do well in the lane. I'm thinking of things that like do well in the laning phase against the Scion. Like it's like
can have Swain. Saw
work.
Yesterday.
Swain works too. You just stack all that free HP onto that like big target. I mean, like, there's also things like Garrett and Darius that do okay, but like, I feel like that's not necessarily up Shanji's alley as much.
It's a fair few players, not necessarily the biggest fans of that. I mean, all right, we're gonna run through these drafts really quickly.
Hopefully we go through it fast. Yeah.
NIP, I swear to God, you've had extra time. You've now gotten an additional amount of like 2 or 3 minutes to think about what you're picking on for here.
All right, well, we're gonna see everything kind of go down the line again. We need a full bot lane that is 80 carry and support here for TT. Meanwhile, on NIP side, we need PP God's champion as well as Shanji up in the top lane. Most likely, assuming that all the champions go to these different roles. Shanji is not the best FFS, so I doubt we're getting the full crit by top lane this game.
Well, that is true. That I don't think
it's kind of base, but I don't think that he's gonna be playing it today.
No. Yeah. If he does, then we'll shame on us. Shame on us for not knowing, for not having that tech down ready. But I'm looking at what Shanji has played this split. We had the Mordekaiser game as well alongside yesterday.
Oh, that does pretty good into just like in general, but the Scion specifically. Looks like instead just gonna match fire with fire. Ornn is also does pretty well in the lane against Scion. The Scion really can't move it, and you have a lot of just general base damage here on this Ornn, with things like the Bella's Breath and the Brittle proc. So I like this here for NIP. It sets up a really nice front to back team comp for them.
And look at this from Thunder Talk. We said that we wanted to see them play, more basic composition where they have clear front line, clear back line access. Tristana gives them some agency in the laning phase to be able to play. It'll kind of come down to not only support matchup, but also how they play the level 1. With Rakan, there's a lot of access to immediately just jump onto Leave before he has access to Arcane Shift. So going to be kind of an arms race when it comes to playing for early game priority coming in for Thunder Talk.
And, all of a sudden you look at like an Ornn, a Vi, Silent, like the 3 melees up here. Okay, now we know that it's at least not just an NIP problem. Maybe Thunder Talk are the reasons behind this as well. I don't know if exactly, because I feel like sometimes like the draft will disappear like a little bit before or after the player officially dodges, they realize what's going on. So maybe it wasn't exactly Feather's fault, but it's pretty easy to blame. I don't know. It's pretty easy to place the
From
blame.
where the camera is pointing. Guys,
Fine.
it's fine.
We
It's
just
my
we're
bad.
just like hey, let's just go blind pick this time because we already know what the game what the champions are gonna be this time around. Okay, Lulu for Thunder Talk. They combine that with the Tristana, and then looks like NIP answered it with a Nico for PP God.
I'm gonna be honest, Grapes. I feel like this game is gonna come down to our supports here. Both of them have kind of different jobs and what they'll be able to do, but with Lulu in particular, she has so many targets that she can kind of stop with her polymorph. And for Nico, kind of is gonna have to be main or secondary engage alongside the Vi, especially early on if we're not pulling Shanji. So this could be a game where we actually see. I think I really favor what what Thunder Talk have.
Could become Feather Talk if he has
Yeah.
a terrific Lulu game. We'll see how much hype we want to put into them. But here we go. Ninjas in Pajamas against Thunder Talk. Both teams coming off of losses. NIP a little bit more recently as they just played last night. Both want to get back on the winning side of things, back towards the right track as we continue on in Split 2 and Group of 7.
All right. Looking like we're getting just very typical 5 points here coming in for these teams. But kind of going to be interested in how Doinb and if he actually ends up making roams, just because of the fact that he is a player that has been at least particularly very creative with his level 3s and how he's able to leave the lane very early on.
On the Silas against the Talia, maybe a little bit more difficult, but always a possibility. As take a look at where the junglers are starting as well, both towards the top side of the map. This bot lane, as you mentioned, going to be very important. I think a lot of Thunder Talk's damage is going to end up coming down to 1xN as we get later on into this game. So making sure that they're in a pretty good position early is going to be important for Beishong.
Okay. So junglers both pathing down towards the bottom lane. And we said that part of this bot lane matchup was going to come down to how the early lane was going. Can we kind of, if God does land, they can find some good chip damage onto 1xN and Feather.
And you already see that a little bit right now. 1xN already forced to pop his first potion. As we also see a little bit of this tank v tank matchup. I imagine we're not going to get much of it as we continue on throughout the early stages of this game. A lot of the action mostly focused on the bottom side, but that's a little bit of what we were talking about. I think in general, the Sion can struggle a little bit in this lane if the Ornn is able to, utilize his combos the right way.
Yeah, there's just so many ways you can interrupt the Q coming out of the ground immediately can push him away. Just having the unstoppable on your W does make it a lot easier for you to at least avoid the knockup portion of Sion's Q. So probably not going to be seeing too much action, and I think this is for the best when we talk about coming into this game. I had some questions as to what kind of champions we were going to see Hoya on. He has been more reliant on getting to an objective first than necessarily pushing out his lane, and Sion is a champion that you can kind of get away with that kind of style.
Early play here onto the mid lane though. Doinby gets stunned up by the Unraveled Earth, but it's gonna get matched up by Aki. 2-man seismic shovel stepping
No
back.
way.
Base one in to try to make it a trade, but right now it is just first blood going over NIP, and Aki and Doinby should be able to walk out scot-free.
Setab uses the flick to push Aki closer to him, and that turns into the first kill going over to NIP. Loses his flash as well. He'll be teleporting back into this play. I know Doinby's got to be a little bit careful here. He doesn't have quite as many eyes onto the enemy jungler, but really good job of being able to destabilize this mid matchup and making it a lot easier for Doinby once he gets a recall in. So see what exactly happened here. He was not on vision, so he got pinged. Oh, our observers are nasty with it. Oh, our observers are showing perfect play. Okay, Aki, you've had some questionable plays, but this was really, really creative from him.
Playing around that vision beautifully, and yeah, Setab, we just a little over ambitious. I mean, just didn't have enough damage after you already used all your spells.
So he's no longer gonna have teleport. Also, his first back was merely just a tier. Doinby's was not that much better in all fairness, but getting that assist gold kind of alleviates some of those worries. Double Ruby Crystal just to make sure that he's able to sustain himself in lane. We're already getting a swap here, the bottom lane of TT moving on up.
So you can't have lane swaps in the first 3-4 minutes, but you can have them after, and maybe that's what ThunderTalk need to get back into the winning side of things. Again, when they were doing well in the LPL, whether it was Demacia Cup or Split 1 where they ended up finishing top 8 in both, a lot of it was because of these lane swaps, of making sure that they were set up in the best possible way, that 1xN could carry in team fights, and also Hoya was not overexposed in a 1v1.
It's going to be an early dragon here for NIP. I'm getting confused because I see two Ezreals on the map, but I know Leave is on the bottom side here, and PP God is the one that's holding that top lane wave. They should have an idea, like, oh, this is Nico up here in the lane. So we'll see. I mean, ThunderTalk have not been able to really push so far. They've been waiting, and by the time Leave gets here, he'll probably have missed at least half of this minion wave. But Tristana should feel rather enthusiastic about the fact that she kind of gets alone time on this turret, but decides not to.
Yeah, instead, Leave shifts over the wall, gets back to the lane on time, so loses out a little bit on that in terms of the CS department, but still things very even, if not slightly NIP favored over there. The Grubs have now spawned, as with Leave and PP God being up there, not going to be as easy for ThunderTalk to start it up, but Beishuan's still going to use the Audacious Charge to get onto it first. Should at least be able to lock up one, with Setab having first move in mid.
What else are they going to be able to do here? Aki does not have his ultimate yet. Even if he steals a grub, he won't be able to hit level 6 in time, so going to be reliant on a kill. PP God, though.
Wow, 1xN already has to jump away with that flash. Doinby coming in, steals away the Crescent Guard, and sends Setab straight to his doom. Leave picks it up with a Mystic Shot, and now Doinby's fighting this 1v2, and liking those odds very, very much so. One more auto secures the feat of Warfare already, and now the target is Hoya. He gets knocked up here by the Searing Charge. He went way too far forward, knowing that the rest of his team was already dead, and it's just an absolute wipe for Ninjas in Pajamas. They're up 4-0 already in this game.
They get 3 kills there, and we said coming out of draft, the supports were going to be very influential on this game, and already seeing that here. PP God finding a flash, Tangle Barbs, gets multiple summoners now out of ThunderTalk. It's probably just going to be a 2-for-1 trade. Beichuan should be able to get in here and finish off this objective, but already the feats of warfare are going over to the Ninjas in Pajamas in a very good state of the game when you look across their lanes.
And Doinby doing so much to disrupt the entire bot lane, kind of almost 1v2ing them at the end of that play. Taking another look at this one, after that first grub was secured, NIP had just an absolutely brilliant collapse off of PP God.
1xN gets found, has to flash out, and then this turn onto who exactly they're going for. Doinby as well, like you had noted during the call. Crescent sweep right into, discombobulating the rest of the fight. They get so many kills, so not only now is Doinby getting a couple of kills and assists, they even were able to catch out Hoya, who didn't use his teleport in this play, but has no flash, has no ultimate either. A pretty huge mistake coming in from ThunderTalk, who wanted to make a play onto an objective, but unfortunately just got caught off guard by the Ninjas in Pajamas.
And The very small win is that ThunderTalk picked up 2 out of the 3 grubs because Beishon was able to get there first. However, now the rest of the team is down pretty heavily. Leave the main target here, and now SaTab may be in trouble once more. He's able to flash away. This time, not going to use a seismic shot forward.
Wait,
this time
Aki?
he does, just onto Aki. One more turret shot would have killed him, as he now has to flash on out of there. So nicely done by SaTab to survive that game.
I like what they're doing, though, making sure that as long as Talia is alive, we're just going to make sure that she does not have any of her flash. And pretty important, especially for the Sylas matchup, especially very early on. Like this coming out from Aki and Doinby. Definitely linking up a lot more in this game than we had seen them in some prior. But for now, it's going to be a minor advantage kind of going over and minimizing here, as with Aki sitting in mid lane, he is starting to slip a little bit behind versus Beichuan. I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue, but with how much control ThunderTalk have under this bottom lane, looks like their priority for the time being is going to be getting gold onto 1xN, who has been the most stable and biggest carry for this team so far this year.
Especially, again, in that early portion of 2025. However, now ThunderTalk, their common strategy to win games is to play around neutral objectives, play these 5v5s. It's going to be hard to do that against a team like NIP, who is so good at team fighting and now also has a gold lead. They're going to have to get a little bit more creative in terms of how they find their way back into this game, at least over the next couple of minutes. I would love to see SaTab be a little bit more active on the map with that Weaver's Wall. Use that lane prio that you can get with the big wave clear that you have and try to get a kill either in the top or the bot side.
I think it's going to be tough when you look at what NIP are kind of going for. They haven't quite set up enough around top side, and if they are going to be going for a bot lane dive, I think you're very heavily dissuaded by the fact that there is a Nico with Pop Blossom now, right? The level 6 being available makes it so difficult for ThunderTalk, and on the flip side, NIP could just use that offensively. So for ThunderTalk, it's going to be about how can they manage gold leads right now, as really the big one for them going is going to be in the top lane and in the jungle. Beichuan having a minor advantage when it comes to camps. And see if they can make a play around this bottom side, but he is under full vision here.
Yep, you know exactly that Beichuan is looking for this play. Actually allows for Aki
No
to
way.
make a little rotation mid. Remember, SaTab doesn't have flash off that earlier play. Aki just jumps into the wall, and it's just easy pickings potentially, as SaTab doesn't take a lot of damage just yet. There comes the Kingslayer forward. Doinby just needs a little bit more damage, and he'll pick it up with one more auto, as that turret aggro was juggled beautifully. However, it's going to get matched here by Hoya, who uses the Unstoppable Onslaught down to the mid. A fully charged, decimating smash will result in the shutdown, and the first kill going over to TT. Doinby uses the stolen away Jin's ultimate, and is able to get out alive.
That's actually really well played coming out from Doinby to get out of that. Hoya is going to at least equalize the kills that were given and taken, but this does mean that Shanji gets himself a plate, gets himself some more gold. Hoya dropping these waves now and kind of giving up some of his advantage. And it now means that for them trying to kind of focus down SaTab in the mid lane, NIP are going to be giving up some of these objectives. There's also going to be a Grubs that is just now spawning, and their bottom lane hasn't been able to take a recall so far for the side of ThunderTalk. As you get to see Aki again, I like the idea. We were talking about the fact that SaTab does not have flash. It's something that they can punish, but they are missing a lot of that damage very early on. So they get that trade going on for themselves, and I think it does minorly kind of advantage TT.
Oh, wow. Now, speaking
Oh
of
no,
TT, they're looking
leave!
for another play on to leave. He just is unable to do anything. Already shifted away and gets shut down here by Beichuan. You all right, Hawk? What's going on?
Dude, he just shifted in place! Leave! No, 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 no! It's gonna be now 4 grubs, or 4 or 5 grubs going over to ThunderTalk. What the hell, man? I mean, that's an uncharacteristic mistake coming in for leave now, as
Oh, hold on.
we're gonna be seeing them, okay.
Maybe he steals away the Buster shot. Beichuan's able to ulti and keep himself alive for now. Here comes the call to Forge God. It's gonna knock up just as Jin's out, but that's all that they're going to want. Target and reward being that second grub, making sure it's not a 5-to-1 split instead of it's just a 4-to-2.
Okay, so small advantage in terms of the fight, getting some gold on the back end of that, but still feeling very confident for where you are as ThunderTalk. And Hoya now gets demolished procs. He has those 4 Void Grubs in his back pocket, so he'll get 2 plates as well. Sion is a champion that we said NIP do not deal with particularly well, and so kind of seeing him get a little bit more gold. If we see the Sion start to get accelerated, I think that is a way for ThunderTalk to at least stay relevant in this game and build out that front line so that Setab and 1xN can find those fights.
We've seen a lot of these like insanely tanky Scions that just like become impossible to take down like after a certain portion of the game, and we're starting to maybe sniff that out a little bit here for Hoya. He's already very powerful. I think in general, getting those Soul Furnace stats up always going to be big, and not too much on NIP side that can really like burst it down. You have somebody like JDG who in like a sustained 1v1 over a long period of time can eventually win out on that fight. Right now, Hoya gonna need multiple members to take him down, as we're gonna see that here with Aki. He flashes away and uses the ulti and choo-choos on out of there.
He'll just be able to catch this next wave as well. NIP do not want to try to invest too much more outside of that. And kind of is going to come down to, from this state in the game, I really like what TT's draft is going to be able to do. It is significantly easier for them to clear mid waves, so how they're going to be playing off of fog and moving Beichuan around this mid lane is going to be very pivotal to see whether or not they're able to kind of find themselves a larger advantage. Requesting 14.5 minutes here, so we're about a minute and a half away from that from the Herald spawning. And what I do want to see from TT is stuff like this. Maybe not like this. Wait a minute.
No, Beichuan very, very tanky. Does a lot of damage to Olympica's lightning as well. Dashes over the wall to take down PP God. However, he's going to get ulted here by Aki, but he's just using it as an escape tool. As Liam is once again in the middle of everybody. Once again, it just gets taken down. And JDG has to flash away from the wind becomes lightning. It's 2 more kills over to TRspodC.
And this is incredibly worrying now because 4 grubs, you have the Demolish, and you have this Tristana. TRspodC are going to get so much work done in the next few moments here, and could potentially even recall and reset getting ready for the Herald. So TRspodC are going to come out big winners here in these last couple of trades and find themselves with a gold lead coming out of this.
And 1xN though, he's in trouble. His jump gets canceled. Oh,
Buster shot!
Buster shot to get Aki away, and that means JDG is left out to dry. Another kill goes over to Beichuan.
What are we doing?
Forge God though.
Not
the 1xN. That's what NIP needed. It's a little bit of momentum, and now Satan's gonna get down, take it down as well. PP God claiming that kill. Beichuan still a lot of HP, a lot of healing as well with the Sundered Sky, but will finally go down.
An extended trade, yes, and it is a minor goal lead here for the Pajamas, but I think we're already getting into the mud here, Grapes. 16 minutes in, and we're just going out for every single scrap. A great re-engage coming back in, and 1xN tries his hardest to be able to escape this. Gets out of range of JDG. Buster shot even dodges out on the ultimate that's coming on through, but that single ward, Shanji just gets a very little vision right there.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I was thinking, this is really weird to try to go for. I mean, there's no one really in mid. Still end up losing a lot of their lives. I'm gonna be honest, Graves, as fun as that was, I still think that was a terrible play coming in from the side of NIP.
It nets them, I think, decently even in terms of the kills. But yeah, I agree. Not full reason to go for that. The one win is that actually Shanji is able to get a lot in terms of just gold off of, I think, a whole tower or just a bunch of wave somewhere or other. As Hoya is getting targeted here. JDG steals away the unstoppable onslaught, looking to try to chase down Hoya. I think it'll be pretty easy for them to do so. Instead, going to try to go to make it a good death, take down this wave, get as much farm as possible, as the rest of the map has been opened up a little bit for TT. Because of that, the Dragon should be there for the taking.
But look at what's now being lost for this. They used the Herald in that play just to get a single top tier one. I think this is a flurry of errors coming in from NIP, and in the picture during that entire time, they engage onto PP God. He has no flash.
Oh, nice flank though. 2 flashes used, but 1xN still gets knocked up by that wild growth. Here comes that cease and desist. They take down the Tristana. And now with that numbers advantage being in favor of NIP, they can make their way towards this Dragon. And Beichuan's going to have to go for some sort of steal if they want to pick it up.
I don't know if they're going to be able to go for this anymore. They have no 1xN. Setab has no ultimate. I kind of want to see in the replay how that ult from Shanji landed. We're getting a lot of replays in this game because we're getting a lot of action here. NIP being able to grab that Dragon after spending so much time trying to kill Sion, I feel is a mistake coming in from TRspodC, and one that NIP are very glad that they were able to punish in this game.
You know, look, What happened right here? 1xN takes a big chunk there, and then this Ornn ulti just barely finds him somehow.
Huh? Like, I think he got Z-axis diffed because he's in the entrance to river. I don't know. I feel like if I'm 1xN, I kind of want that back. Like, if I'm gonna get hit by it either way, I'd rather just get my flashback, please.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate, as that actually was pretty big for NIP. Get a lot of pressure along the map, pick up that mid-tier one, as well as Shanji still getting a decent chunk and a decent trade off against JTab up on the top side. But we've got the team fights that we've been asking for, Alker, that we were hoping for, that we were expecting between these two teams. They play similar styles, but right now it is, right, I think the solo laners for NIP, as we kind of alluded to in the draft, playing better than TRspodC, as we have a bit of a pause to slow down the action because it's been a little wild so far.
So, you know, we already had the delays from the draft. We had 2 of them back to back. Now we get to see what exactly is causing a delay in game. Hopefully it is not too long for everybody at home. Again, we are waiting to see exactly what was the issue, and hopefully it is resolved quite quickly. But NIP, man, they're kind of getting down in the mud with their opponents. They're playing to that level of, hey, TRspodC, we're going to try to find fights. We are going to try to force on you. And I think some of the tools that TRspodC have are actually providing to be kind of an issue here for NIP.
And again, we came into this expecting that Ninjas in Pajamas were going to be the big favorites in this best of 3. Of course, TRspodC on that 4-game losing streak. NIP, after a tough, close loss to Weibo, wanting to bounce back with just 1 day turnaround. But that has not necessarily fully been the case, and there's been some decision-making errors, I think we can say, from NIP that allowed for TRspodC to climb back into this game, despite them not necessarily playing things out super well, all things considered.
TRspodC are a lot more competitive in this game than maybe kind of we thought coming into this series. We're back in the game, everybody, but kind of a weird spot because we talked about from draft that with this combination of the Sion and Xin Zhao, it should be particularly difficult for NIP to actually get rid of these two. And TRspodC is eventually going to be able to kind of get back into this game. Already has finished his Seraphs. Same thing alongside 1xN now, and again, Feather with this Lulu has so much on his plate as to what he's going to be able to do with a Polymorph and a Wild Growth. I think despite the kill differential and even the slight gold lead that NIP do have, I do favor TRspodC as this game goes on.
Yeah, but in the meantime, Beishuan's going to have to do some good, big, heavy lifting in this mid game, as he's the one with the significant advantage, and also one that just in general composition-wise does the most damage at this stage in the game. Once we get later on, of course, 1xN is going to be able to do more. But with the fact that he's pretty behind, if TRspodC are going to want to make plays, it's going to have to come through their top side, I believe.
I can't believe we're asking for Hoya to save this game. We're back in split 1, man. Like, Hoya has had a really tough time. Him and Beishuan alongside 1xN and Feather have been kind of long-standing members here on TRspodC here in the LPL, but have just not been able to kind of string together wins, have very successful seasons. But this year has kind of felt like the biggest and brightest moment for this team.
Rồi ở đây Nip có cho mình
Gonna have to, unfortunately, do it on a Sion game. And him and Beishuan have a lot on their shoulders if they want to bring themselves to another
nhưng mà bên
win
Trung
here
Tân
in the
thì muốn
LPL.
đánh.
It's a good angle for a fight.
Lâu vào thì
The
chắc mình
Otacon
muốn
was
đánh.
started up and now reset. Going B steals away that Xin Zhao ultimate has been very valuable in some of these team fights so far. Shanji gets
Rồi,
stunned
Nip phá
up
nha.
here by that Unraveled Earth, but
Yêu.
gets called the Forge God.
Cũng
It
được
only
mà.
finds one target. Hoya flashes away,
Không
but
ra
he's
nằm
still
bẫy
very
nữa.
beefy. He's going to have the zombie passive as well.
PP
Quá
God!
đẹp rồi.
PP God, though, lands a knockup with the pop loss. The
Chết luôn,
Mono 2
bất
going to
ngờ
be
nên-
followed up here by Aki, but it's
Đang quá
going
trên
to
Nip
be a trade. Beishuan still
sorry,
full HP.
đang quá Trung Tân
Same
em ơi.
Beishuan out a ton of damage. Beishuan has not died just yet. Looking to find another kill with his underside proxy. Let
Còn
up,
mình
but
sẽ
no,
tắt.
it's going to be Leave. Giving himself a
Triple
triple
kill dành
kill
cho
as NIP find a
Lion
huge win in that team fight.
And that was incredibly close. Even I like this from TRspodC, just using the ultimate, try to delay this wave from hitting the turret. PP God finds a massive pop blossom onto 1xN and Feather and blows
Thế là chung hai
open
đường
this
giữa.
fight. We
Infinite.
saw how close that was with the Sundered Sky from Beishuan and TRspodC throwing another rock. This game is anything but over for TRspodC, and it doesn't
Không bạn ơi.
get easier from this point on. really just
Giải của
fighting
Trung Quốc
for
có cung dưỡng
position
quyền.
around the top side. You saw that NMP were actually starting up the Otacon, trying to see if they can bait TT into an unfavored fight, but this fight
Cái
was
Hàn
just
Quốc á,
so
Quốc thì
like
có quyền.
dysfunctional from ThunderTalk. The fact that it is this close is, I think, a testament to some of the strength of their draft, but we saw how far away a lot of the DPS members were from the front line, and if we're gonna have more fights like that, we, I think, should come to expect that NIP are going to win out more and more.
Good fight from Tab. Got himself back into this game a little bit now as those 2 full completed items. However, not enough, of course, to win that fight here for ThunderTalk, as now leave very strong as well, going for that 3rd item as it's almost completed after picking up both the Trinity Force and the Muramana. But ThunderTalk, all they know how to do is 5v5 team fight, and so that's what they're going to continue to do. They're fully stacked up here with the Dragon, the Infernal, I should say, spawning in less than 10 seconds. They're posturing aggressively, looking to try to find some sort of angle in.
Guys, please, we have 4 grubs. Surely we can just walk into a side lane, right? Surely we can just go for a side lane here, play
we
here.
We are full A-ramming. That is what we're doing.
JDG has the wild growth this moment. Something that we didn't really talk about in this game is that Silas's steals are particularly impactful this game around. Obviously, wild growth does let them play with a little more HP. ThunderTalk going to try and pincer them here with Bitron coming over top. But the Dragon's already gone.
Knockup will land here with the Decimating Smash on the PP God, combined with that Seismic Shove, but it's not nearly enough to take down the Nico. Meanwhile, Hoya could be in a little bit of trouble as Beishwan gets dove on upon by Shanji. First kill, going over to leave. Aki trying to 1v1 Feather on the backside, but now with the zombie passive, Hoya going to try to do some extra damage here. PP God going to land the knockup, bringing the Pop Blossom onto Beishwan, takes the Jin Down down, and now 1xN is saved down. Wrong side of the map, and so is all of TT. Will they do anything to try to keep themselves alive here? Don't think so. There goes that ultimate. And 1xN is down.
TRspods is just going to have to hit the Weaver's wall, right back to the base, retreat with his support, and it looks like NIP, they're going to clear one more mid-wave and look to try to play around the top side of this map, putting themselves on Soul Point, winning that fight. And the entire gold lead is in the bottom lane. We came into this series talking about TT really reliant on 1xN, but for NIP, they do the exact same thing. Leave has looked like one of the best AD carries, and while there have been some mistakes this game, he is just untouched on this Ezreal as NIP grab themselves the Otacon.
I mean, this is not the easiest composition to maneuver around that Ezreal. A lot of tools that are going to try to be diving on top of you, a lot of skill shots going to be thrown at you, but he's done a really good job so far. And with NIP picking up this Otacon buff, they now find themselves up over 4,000 gold. See what the resets look like in terms of items also being picked up for NIP, but they look like they want some revenge after what happened to them yesterday here.
Yeah, and that'll come in the form of potentially looking for a Baron fight with NIP getting all of those Blood Rose petals alongside the bonus of taking the Ruinous Otacon. They're going to be feeling good with 3 dragons apiece in their back pocket, and now these Ornn items are starting to come on through, these Masterwork items, giving massive bonuses for his team. I think you already were looking down a 5,000 gold differential. There's some experience difference. Look at the difference between Leave and 1xN. 3 levels between these two.
Yeah. Pretty rough. Look pretty rough for Tab as well. As he just gets burst down after the Call of Fortune land on top of his head. Here comes the stolen away unstoppable onslaught. They're looking straight for the backline. Carries Feather goes and pops that wild growth. But now 1xN is fully targeted and fully taken down. Hoya the next on the menu, as this is a domination, a clinic for Ninjas in Pajamas as they push down mid.
They're just going to look to end. There is no minion wave here. We kind of got to see Hoya's body end up kind of pushing for it. With 5 members, they have a lot of HP.
1 minion alive, but they're not even going to need it. Beishwan just gets 1 shot, and all 5 members of NIP are going to head on to the Nexus at 26 minutes with a dominant Game 1 win over ThunderTalk.
It looked a little scary at some points. We got to see them execute that much better. And not quite the quickest game, but definitely a lot quicker than a lot of ThunderTalk's averages here. Man, what a wacky game. Multiple pauses, multiple delays, a couple of fights there where ThunderTalk was looking quite good, but I think getting sucked into some of these fights was kind of at the behest of NIP. It felt like they kind of fell into their game plan where we said they wanted to suck ThunderTalk into this vortex of, we're just playing fights, bro. We're just here to fight. Keep coming to us.
Yeah, that kind of is what ThunderTalk want to do, though, right? That seemingly is the name of their game. It's just, as you mentioned going in, NIP tend to do it a little bit better, and that's why they have a bit of a better record than what TT has at this moment. But they have game number 1, still more series to be played, but
Yeah.
The fact that that game was close for a little bit and then all of a sudden became incredibly one-sided as soon as we had that first major fight, that's a bad sign if you're a ThunderTalk fan and if you're trying to avoid your 5th straight loss.
We were looking at how strong this composition was looking for the side of ThunderTalk, but unfortunately, again, just getting caught out on mid waves. We talked about what the influence of the supports was going to be. PP God having a few different engages, whether it was with the Tangle Barbs or the Pop Blossoms, being able to find his opponent, making it very easy for his team to actually kind of get fights and find numbers advantage. We never actually got to see those kind of head-on 5v5s that we were kind of looking for at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, especially when there was so much skirmishing early on. The composition here for ThunderTalk really never got online. 1xN was put so far behind, whether it was because of some of the early plays, some of the lane swaps that ended up happening. I think ended like 0-5 on the Tristana, was never really able to get off and running. And that was a big portion of what TT needed to have their composition succeed once we even got to those later 5v5 team fights.
Part of it was that we were looking at Beichuan and Hoya, but they didn't necessarily get off to the best start. I think there was the large amount of focus onto Setab early on really made it difficult to kind of see this Taliyah roam around the map or even eventually impact a lot of these fights. So I like the strategy. There's still a lot of things to clean up, but we came into this matchup talking about that this was going to be a pretty one-sided affair in terms of who we expect winning this matchup. And every single win, every match here for ThunderTalk is a learning moment in Group Ascend.
Yeah, it's just they've done a lot of learning so far, which is maybe not as what they've been wanting to do. Probably want to do a little bit more of the winning as well, as we're getting ready for, of course, our post-match screenshots, the replays, our player of the game votes, and the like. But there's still a lot to look forward to if you're a ThunderTalk fan. Just maybe not in this specific game. Just finding these little margins of being able to improve your gameplay. I feel like we saw some good stuff out of Beichuan specifically in this series, but that's not in this first game, I should say. But that's not necessarily what's been the problem for this game.
No, and for Ninjas in Pajamas, this is I think a very needed win. Obviously, coming in, they are the favorites, but taking that loss against Weibo, and in particular, that game 3 versus Weibo was one where I think Leaf had such a large individual advantage, but it unfortunately just got outranged, and Xiaohu was putting up a hell of a performance back on the Ari. So I am kind of looking towards NIP to take this win, take it in stride, and then use this as fuel to kind of hopefully propel them to be a bit more competitive in the next coming games, because their schedule does not get much easier after this.
I feel like your schedule never gets easy up in Group Ascend. There's so many really talented teams, and even a squad like WE, like they just took a game off of BLG and Top Esports. Like
Yeah,
they're certainly, the record looks like they're 0-4 obviously, but they can make any series interesting against any team. There's no freebies in this group right now.
ThunderTalk has been a big freebie in this group.
That's true, unless you're FPX.
You know,
which,
imagine your series, like you have 3 series in a week, and you're like, okay, we're going against WE, ThunderTalk, FPX. FPX is probably the one you're a little bit more worried about, but you know, if we were only looking at like when we came into Split 2, you would have saw those 3, you'd have been like, all right, 3-3-0 for us. We get to start off, you know, the good streak, build that momentum. We are starting to see, I think, that buck the trend, though, especially in the other teams, right? FPX has been taking wins and upset wins up against some of the better teams. WE is starting to piece together individual games and not necessarily series. So if all of our bottom teams start to rise eventually, then we, I think, like you were saying, get more of that competitive Group Ascend that we're hoping for as we get through 8 weeks of LPL.
Now, an interesting development here is also that ThunderTalk's next game is against WE. And sure, this is their first round robin. There's still a lot more games to play. But if you want to just like make sure you're in the best possible position for these standings, you know, not only do top 4 secure UE spot in the upper bracket already in the playoffs, but also if you finish at the top 8, that means that you get like side select probably in your matchup in that best of 5
True.
placement, or at least, or some sort of advantage, whether it's that or playing against a potentially weaker opponent. So that is another thing that you're gonna have to keep an eye on for these teams. Like, it's not just finishing top 4. Like, every one of these games have some impact over how difficult you're gonna make your life when you get to that play-in best of 5, one singular best of 5 to try to qualify into the playoffs.
It's not only just singular best of 5s, but you're also going to be playing against like some pretty ravenous teams, right? Like if you're only looking at potentially playing like some of the Group Nirvana teams, those are squads that are like fighting for their lives here in the LPL. A lot of these squads are trying just not to be eliminated for the rest of the year. So they're going to, at the very least, have a little bit more hunger there, where you've been sitting in Group Ascend. You're able to have your double round robin, which is not the case for the Group Nirvana teams. As we get some of our post-game stats here, Leave doing an impressive 32% of his team's damage. Yesterday night, I was taking a look at some of the stats, and Leave had by and far away, this was the most impressive stat for me. When it came to AD carries and just across the league, he has the highest damage share of any individual player in his role and overall, and DPM 1,000. So he is first in AD carries and first across the league. Just insane stuff.
I feel like whenever we see like a 1,000 damage per minute game, we're like, oh my god, that's a crazy, intense, like in terms of combat and also just in terms of this player popping off. That's like a crazy game. But to average that over the course of an entire season is pretty nuts.
Oh, it's Chanji who got MVP. Okay, fair enough. He played the Ornn. It was a pretty decent performance. All right, fine. I'll take it.
Yeah, well, it looks like that's going to do it for our coverage of this first game. We're going to take a short break before, of course, we head back to Game 2 and see if ThunderTalk could potentially bounce back. But before we do so, have a quick thank you that we have to give, as we are extremely grateful to our Coffee and YouTube subscribers who help level up the show. A lot of the initial payments go into upgrading the broadcast, but a huge bulk of it also pays on-air talent and content creators. Subscribe to our Coffee. It is currently linked in the chat to unlock perks like early access to content and the ability to ask interview questions for our unique on-site interviews. Again, ThunderTalk down 1-0 in this best of 3 series in Group Ascend. 2 Ninjas in Pajamas. We'll see if they can bounce back once we return from this break. Welcome back, everybody, to LPL English. Before we move on with the draft of Thunder Talk and Ninjas and Pajamas, I've got a quick question for you. Have you ever heard of MOBA Trainer? It's a new app that helps teach you about League of Legends with a series of puzzles. You just boot up the program and you work through the puzzles every day to improve your game knowledge. You can select a puzzle from this map, answer the questions, and unlock more features. And what we're going to do is do one of these puzzles right now as we await for game number 2.
All right, let's choose our training path. I've had a little bit of time. Thankfully, this is not my account, so if I get these wrong, we'll have continuity. This will just be the LPL English. I already did economy, so Grapes, which one do you want to do? Do you want to do game state, fighting?
Let's do game state. I feel like that's something where I'm trying to work on that a little bit in terms of my.
So the first levels, there's kind of tiers to this. Basically, most of them you get to choose what role. So we're gonna do level up timers first. Usually you can choose your role, but a lot of the time they're just gonna. Oh wait. Oh, I think you have to hit the question mark. You have to hit the question mark. There we go. And then we choose our role. So you're a top laner. I'm a bottom laner. Let's cut the difference. Let's go mid.
Yeah, sure. You know what? That makes sense. That makes enough sense. Let's go mid lane here, and then we will.
That one works. No, practice pattern. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. All right. So we're gonna choose level up timers. It starts off easy, and then obviously you get a lot more issues. So we're gonna see Volibear versus Olaf.
I play some Volibear sometimes.
Yeah, it's fun to see some of the names. Sometimes I recognize some of the names in these clips. So. Gonna give us a general lane state. It's the very beginning of the game. So he's asking, do we kill the melee minion to get level 2? Do we go for a trade or last hit? I'm gonna go for a trade here into Olaf, and because you are playing Volibear, your passive, he already has the passive stacked. You should be trying to, utilize that passive and kind of get in there. Okay. There you go. So we can watch the ending, and it'll kind of show like what the decision was there.
Yeah. That minion was gonna die on its own. You don't need to necessarily kill it.
And if Olaf decided to trade with you, then yeah, you're gonna probably win in a lot of these. So yep, it just kind of shows the result. We can kind of keep moving through these because there's a lot of puzzles in one. Yeah, so we'll kind of finish this one up before the start of draft. All right, Grapes, you're gonna lead us on this one. It's Gnar versus Kennen.
So we are the Gnar in this situation. This is a matchup that sometimes can go a little bit sideways as the second wave crashes in. What are we going to do? I think that right now, we got to back off because that melee minion's about to die and he's about to hit level 2.
There you go.
There we go.
Correct choice. Kennen hits level 2 first. You also might be getting egoed because you're playing against Broken Blade. This is Maitner, who is an EU top. He's been playing for a little bit. I do recognize this name, but good job. And we even got the 1v1. We got the solo kill. Great job, Grapes.
Okay.
You're better than Broken Blade.
All because of me. All because of me, basically. Are we gonna do one more before we go to draft? Let's do one more.
Yep. All right. Aatrox. So it is Maitner again, but it's against Gragas, so a counter matchup for the Aatrox. Getting some pretty good damage, but I like how Aatrox is playing this far up in the lane. Allows him to kind of deny experience. They're already level 2, however. Okay.
Let's see. When's it gonna freeze right here?
Okay, so we can focus the wave. Gragas does have W right now, and we're a little bit chunked. I think we should focus the wave.
I think it's either 1 or 2 more minions are gonna get you level 3 as well. And you'd want to have that extra level.
I'm the big noob.
Okay. What was the right? Do we know what the right?
It was focus the wave. I guess it was trade.
I guess it was trade. Interesting. So I guess he was gonna ding level 3 anyway. Gets a solo kill. Shot Maitner. Okay.
I also saw Natty Nat, who is the current jungle for Ready Sack. Shout out to the boys playing in NLC. And that's just that's one of the many puzzles you can kind of play here. You can also see at the bottom there's mechanical training. They have like some skill shots you can dodge. You can kind of fight back. The skill shot one, you're playing Ezreal, but only with your Q enabled. It is there's a lot of stuff going on in there.
A lot of cool stuff to potentially help you improve your game and improve your play on Summoner's Rift. So if you enjoyed that, you can subscribe for 20% off and unlimited puzzles by using our code LPL20. Proceeds will benefit the MOBA Trainer designers as well as us here on the LPL unofficial English broadcast. Start leveling up your game today. And with that being said, another big thank you to MOBA Trainer as we can transition on over to our coverage of ThunderTalk versus Ninjas in Pajamas. Of course, NIP taking that first game in pretty relative ease, 27 minutes being that final timer. And it just kept like, it felt like fight after fight after fight. NIP just kept winning and winning and winning.
Yeah, there was a few hiccups along the way, but still feels like we're getting the same recipe here for Ninjas in Pajamas, which is kind of care a little bit less about the map. The people who are going to be cleaning up side lanes is mostly just Shanji by himself. I think that is also reflected in some of his stats. He has the lowest damage share of any top laner at like around 17%, which is pretty insane when you look at like what the top lane pool is with like Ambessa and the Gnar, things like the Rumble and Jace. So I think it's quite interesting that we've gotten that from Shanji, but he's kind of doing a lot of the dirty work for this team as we are so focused on getting a lot of damage done between our mid and our AD carry.
Yeah, it's a bit indicative to see like a B1 Scion get locked in for Hoya and not like an immediate hard lane counter response by Shanji. That kind of just goes to show what focuses Ninjas in Pajamas have in terms of their drafts, in terms of what their compositions want to look like. Opting instead to just play for the team by going and locking in that Ornn. So different than, you know, obviously like if Bin was playing, I feel like he'd have a little bit of a different thought to that B1 Scion. So yeah, it's interesting to see NIP, another team that like I guess isn't like obviously best in slot in all 5 roles, so finding unique ways to play the game and win the game. And obviously they've been doing a decent amount of that, but need to take that next step in order to potentially jump into that top 4 conversation in the LPL.
Yeah, I think there's still going to be a lot of work here for NIP, and I think we've seen that reflected in their games. I mean, the fact that they lose out to a team like JDG, who is at the top of the standings, they lose to AL as well. This NIP is very solidly like our 5th to 6th best team in the league right now, and I think also it's kind of reflective of the fact that they're the only team that's literally 50% win rate. They're 2-2 in their series score. They're 5-5 game record right now, so they are the only team directly in the middle, and I feel like that is the perfect spot for a team that has some level of experience, but also has, I think, some flaws when it comes to roster composition.
Yeah, the thing is, though, if you have Doinby on your team, which is a decision that was made right before the start of split number 1, your goal is to get more than just the middle of the pack, right? You want to avoid being kind of just average, which I feel like is what many people thought this NIP roster was going to be before Doinby joined the team. But now that he's here, he's able to be a big leader for the squad. A lot more expectations here for this team. You remember they won some of their earlier series in Split 1, the best of 5 against IG, to have them finish first in their group before maybe fizzling out a little bit earlier than expected in the postseason. So ups and downs overall for NIP. But when we've seen them at their best, they can definitely contend with the top of the table.
There's been those flashes of brilliance, and again, I think it comes down to leave in the bottom lane, but still, I'm kind of looking forward to what this NIP team can do. I think any team that has Doinby is automatically incredibly exciting for especially our international viewers, and gonna kind of see if ThunderTalk were able to make any short changes in between the series here as we're getting ready for game number 2. I think that's why we had so many delays in the first one. This draft overlay.
I was about to say, like, what is going on? Why are we picking? Anyway, we'll see if it ends up switching or if this is actually just a new overlay. Maybe it's just a new strat that I am not familiar with. But ThunderTalk still on the blue side. Looks like the band's largely the same, specifically on NIP side. See what TT wants to prioritize this time around. It will be the Sejuani.
I feel like we had some weird priorities here because last game I feel like they should have been first picking the Vi. It feels like it's a champion that gets so much value and typically we don't see until game 2 or game 3. Now we're picking the Yone, which I mean in fairness we haven't seen Doinby pick up the Yone champion in general. So kind of saying like we know you're not going to take this. Let's just grab one half of it and we're secure on the second half. But now NIP gonna have access to this Nefiri.
I think this is probably just a call out. Doinby does not play this champion.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe it goes towards Shanji in the top lane, but blinding it would be very risky. The Lucian we saw have middling to little success last time around. It was picked up by Doinby, so instead it's going to be the misfortune. I will say that Aki on this Nefiri has done very good. I mean, a lot of people on the Fury have done good, but Aki specifically on the Champ has been solid.
Okay. So TT, they're going to nab themselves up this really strong duo. Obviously has a lot of potent power with Permafrost, and with Yone getting a small love tap when it came to the balance changes, feels like this champion is a lot stronger as the game goes on, obviously with crit being removed, or the crit modifier against him being enhanced. Feels a lot stronger, and does mean that on side lanes we're going to be seeing hopefully more impact from ThunderTalk and this mid jungle duo, as Yone for Sitab has also been one of his best champions. So now ThunderTalk, I think a pretty decent amount of team fighting and what they can do. It's just what our NIP going to be able to respond with.
Yeah, we ran that clip package during the pre-show of this first series that showed some clips on Sitab on the Yone. So maybe we can farm some more clips for the next time ThunderTalk play if he has a good series here, or a good game. As there's the Yorick locked in for Shanji. It was banned away earlier on, both actually in the 1v1 phase of this game, as well as game number 1. And this time it will be picked up here by the top laner of Ninjas in Pajamas.
Okay, so my eyes immediately here for ThunderTalk when we're talking about the second phase of bans is supports and kind of mids that are going to offer some crowd control. I think if there is ever a world where you're kind of worried about some scary mid laners, I don't know what exactly is going to be available for NIP. Maybe we get another Lissandra game, just because Nefiri requires a lot of setup. She has the ability to dive into the backline, and early game pre-level 6, she still has some skirmishing there, but she typically likes to get paired up with mid laners, specifically this Ryze, that give her point-and-click CC, so it's easier for her to get her damage down. So instead, ThunderTalk are trying to get rid of AP mids here. You know, we talked about earlier the fact that Doinby does have a bit limited of a pool in terms of what he's allowed and able to play in lane. So NIP, their composition does feel a bit all over the place, but some strong lockdown and a lot of damage, especially from this Misfortune and the Fury early.
So an Orianna to follow things up here. Of course, still need a mid laner here for NIP, as well as the support. Feel like in that support position, you can still get a lot of that hard engage that Nefiri enjoys. Things like the Rel, Nautilus, Leona, all still up for the taking. As the Victor gets locked in for Doinby. I feel like we don't see him play that super often, although he did, I think, pilot it a couple of series ago. Responsive for ThunderTalk here. Hoya has loved this Mbessa basically the whole year.
Ooh. So big dive composition now coming in for ThunderTalk. You have so much ability to ignore some of this front line, and we say some of this. There's absolutely no front line here for Ninjas in Pajamas. Gonna probably be leaning on an Alistar on 5 here for PP God. I think a Poppy, either taking the Alistar, or I think you might have to just take Poppy here now that you've showed it. I mean, even if ThunderTalk win this game, Poppy has been such a big pick for this team. Instead, they're going to go for the Braum. I'll be honest, Grapes, I yet again am in a situation where I really like ThunderTalk's draft. I think the crowd control that you have, the fact that there are not very many mobile members from NIP, this Alistar is going to get value. The solo lanes in ThunderTalk can very easily access the immobile mages and the AD carry of this Misfortune. And it'll be up to an NIP to kind of get a little bit creative here.
I think they are very much intended to go and be a creative team this time around, because look at the 5 champions. No real hard engage. You're looking at a Nefiri flank really as your big go button. And so with this Yorick that has been picked up from Shanji, we've seen a lot of teams when they have played this champion sit in the side lane and never group for the entirety of the game. Have your maiden just take down a lot of structures. You have a Victor who can wave clear very well. Part of me is expecting that to be the game plan here for NIP, because the 5v5, which is normally where they like to go, they get completely outmatched by the composition of ThunderTalk.
Hey, you're feeling mad comfortable after just a couple puzzles in MOBA Trainer. Okay, let's.
I just see Yorick on enemy team, meaning split push.
True. That's true. I mean, we'll have to see.
I can say that, but it sounds less smart. You know, it makes me sound.
Yeah, and so with ThunderTalk having this Mbessa, one of the problems that we have started to see with Yorick is that the split pushing is nice, but I think a lot of the teams that have gotten Yorick have not been able to secure a lot of the grubs. I think that is just partly because of Yorick in the early game. His priority is not the greatest, and being able to clear lanes and waves is not the best. So it'll be interesting to see how ThunderTalk and how NIP focus his topside objective early, and if NIP can close out the series here versus TrspodC.
Oh, that was sick. Wait, was that like an NIP specific
Yep.
thing?
Every
That's
time we're in
awesome.
the Shenzhen Arena, they, at least for one of the games, will always play the skybox that they have, which is really, really beautiful. It happens in all of the home arenas. I know that WE has theirs for when they're in Xi'an, and same thing when we're playing in some of the other arenas for a team like LNG especially.
Speaking of, I think we're traveling on over for this JDG versus Invictus Gaming series next time around. That'll be coming up a little bit later today. As we see some early trading here, level 1, doinb going into melee range of Hoya is spotted out in a ward pretty nicely, keeping himself alive. As let's take a look. General scheme of things right now, we have doinb going Grasp of the Undying as well as the Shield Bash, a very lane focused approach against Satap on the Yone, but maybe not as much late game damage.
I thought we were maybe going to see more Electrocute, because that's kind of been the matchup. It's been a bit more cringe, but a lot of health scaling in this game, Grapes. And with doinb on this Victor, he should have, for the most part, until Sitab is able to get his first recall and get some more items, should be bullying him around. We saw this matchup actually yesterday, not necessarily with the Yone, but Victor versus Aurora, and doinb was absolutely sunning Xiaohu in the mid lane, so...
Alright. Oh, take a look at this wave state right now. What would you do if you're Leave? Do you push? Do you trade?
I'm trading. I have Misfortune Braum versus Alistar level 1. I'm punching this guy in the head with my guns. There's no way we're getting past concussive blows.
Yeah, look at that. Level 2 hit for Leave, forcing 1xN and Feather back away. It looks like, nope, so far, bot lane in control for Ninjas in Pajamas. Of course, having that Braum with the concussive blows going to be very, very important. As you can see, some of that harass that doinb is able to put in onto Satap.
So we're actually getting a trade here. We've been seeing this from our Nefiris. The amount of mobility that this champion does offer means that you can kind of jump over walls, take some creative paths. Nefiri already kind of sitting here under this, getting some of these camps, but Leave is here. He's giving up a pretty large a portion of this wave just to protect his jungle.
That's real nice. Aki owes him dinner after that one for keeping the blue buff alive.
And he's gonna oh my god! And then Aki's gonna cancel his recall. He's gonna get spotted here. Out? Okay, so there was pings. So Aki was spotted, but now Aki just gets access to. So he sold 2 camps topside. He has all of his bottom lane camps here. He'll also have access to the 2 camps on his topside quadrant. So if everything goes to plan and he continues to full clear, Aki is going to have at least half a level over on his opponent, and that, I think, is going to be very meaningful when we talk about playing for second grubs.
Yeah, definitely getting your Nefiri off to an early start is critical on this champion specifically, especially in this game where there's not a ton of hard CC, easy setup. Obviously, Nefiri is a champion that does not have a lot of that crowd control, so can potentially get bursted out, singled out if she's not off to a good start for an early lead. The trade will be Beishuan being able to pick up a spawn of these Raptors and make sure that at least some of it goes back his way.
And a good job from TrspodC solo lanes. Satap escorting his jungler into the top side, then Hoya even getting vision down to C. So this isn't going to be as big of an advantage as we were maybe hoping for here. And I think Shanji does need to be careful, has vision of this Sejuani, but does kind of leave up some of the other lanes for a potential answer, and maybe even a start of the Dragon with NIP with this next incoming wave on bottom lane. They have to be very careful about where this Varus and Alistar are positioning.
Instead, it looks like where they will be positioning is right under their turret, which is not good for them. If you look at the wave state right now, that is pushing kind of either right down the middle or of TrspodC going away from them. So Leave and PPGod doing a really nice job at forcing 1xN Feather away, as Feather actually going to spot out Aki, taking down these grubs, but not going to do anything about it.
And they just get to have priority. There was a single brush in the wraparound, the banana brush, into a blue entrance for Aki. And that ward got so much done. And even here now, it's kind of spotting out Aki so that there's not another kill. That's why we got to see 1xN and Feather stick under their turret. So No early dragon, but a lot of vision now from ThunderTalk placed in this top side jungle, as ThunderTalk want to try to isolate this York and have him set up to potentially be easy pickings. Now that Hoya has the public execution, he's going to teleport probably back into this lane. And there's a very real possibility that we could see ThunderTalk try to put some hurt down onto Shanji.
And remember, the grub's very important here for Ninjas in Pajamas with this side laning split pushing comp that they likely will be going for, which Shanji doesn't get a bunch of grubs. These turrets don't really take any damage in this game.
Yeah.
As you can see, actually, the York bot lane using that teleport, so they're already off to that side laning mission. Hoya has teleport, but it's going to be Aki actually who starts up these grubs. Beishwan has the opportunity to steal it away, and he does so. A little bit early on the smite was Aki. He has to jump over the wall, and that's a huge win for ThunderTalk on that major objective trade.
I think Aki just needed to kind of escort at least one of these lanes, play off of their priority. Losing the smite fight definitely doesn't help there, and we also saw that in mid lane, Doinby, despite getting the back a little bit earlier than Sitab, actually lost out on priority because Yone was able to teleport first. So good job from ThunderTalk to punish. We wanted to see an early focus on grubs, and being able to take away that from a champion like Yorick. It's going to be very influential for ThunderTalk. It's all about how much time are they actually going to have to get onto these turrets. You can see that Yone right now is trying to flank towards top side. He always can jump into Fog of War, and with our ultimates up and available, I think that ThunderTalk are feeling more and more emboldened to try to look for plays like this.
I feel like this is working pretty well for TT so far. We haven't seen too much of that interaction, that synergy between the Sejuani and the Yone yet, but it's still a lot of time for that to happen. It's right now Sitab is the one that has that advantage over Doinby. Right now, still waiting for some of those that first dragon to be taken, I should say, as might be easier for NIP to take that one, as right now Shanji has a lot of pressure over Hoya and just in terms of getting that wave crashed under tower.
I just think that if you're going to be recalling right now, especially with your bottom lane, it looks like they were faking the back. NIP just have to pull back off of this objective. Yone also was still sticking in mid. They knew that Bechuan was kind of going to be covering towards this bottom lane. I think this is a mistake coming in from NIP. And yeah, their bottom lane staying for another wave means that TT get this dragon.
Take it a little bit slower than the NIP side would do with the Nefiri, but no real effort to go for it. Absolutely. And so ThunderTalk, they burn their teleport of Hoya to force Shanji back up here, and it allows them to actually get this first dragon of the game, which is a pretty solid win for them.
I think this is problematic here, Grapes, because we saw with the fact that you have this Victor versus Yone matchup, the fact that the Misfortune and Braum are typically going to have easier and better times being able to skirmish with their opponents. We didn't secure dragon priority. We missed our timer to be able to grab these grubs at the same time. So it's too early objectives going over to TT, and we still have 0 kills in this game, which we were saying that as if this game does go long, at least myself, I personally really favor ThunderTalk's composition. So